Matthew chapter 4, verse 18 through 22. And it's talking about Jesus here. As he was walking along the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and his brother, Andrew. And they were casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Follow me, he told them, and I will make you fish for people. And immediately they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother, John. They were in a boat with Zebedee, their father, preparing their nets, and he called them. Immediately, they left the boat and their father and followed him. Father, would you help us this morning to receive what you have freely given us through your word? And God, I pray that by the end of not just this message, but in this moment connecting with you today, that we would all follow the way that these men followed. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, you may have your seats. Anybody in here lift weights? Yeah. So the people who lift weights, they're like, they can't even lift their arms to let me know they lift the weights, but you want me to believe you lift weights. I'm just kidding. So I never lifted weights. I played basketball throughout, middle school, high school. And I think we lifted weights one day every year during preseason, and there was no regimen. But it wasn't until I got to college and I actually wound up walking on or joining the football team at my college. And so there was a whole plan we had to do. And so I was still fresh in the gym. I had no idea how to do anything. And I remember one day I was in the gym and I was by myself. There's people there, but I was working out by myself. And I was like, well, time to lift weights, so I'm gonna do some bench press because that's the only thing that I think I know how to do. And so I grabbed these 45-pound plates. They're about this big, this circle, and I put it on the bar on both sides, and I put two on each side, actually, because, why not? It's not that hard, right? You just got to grab the bars, you got to push. I got this. So I remember I had these two 45s on each side. So it's about 225 pounds because the bar itself weighs 45 pounds. And so I remember I grabbed the bar and I began to push, but nothing moved. Like not even a little bit. It was like, this thing is just stuck. So I was like, okay, I got up, kind of looked around. Did anybody see that? Because that's what I was most concerned about at the time. Then I took off one of the plates from each side. So that I get back on to the bench and I grabbed the bar again and I began to push and I could not even lift the bar. It was stuck. I'm just like, I'm embarrassed at this point. And so I'm like, well, what do I do? So I took off the 45 pounds and I'm like, maybe I'll put on 35. So I'm like, well, that was hard. So maybe 25s. So then I put 25s on each side. And then I look at it and I'm like, I'm just gonna go do a different machine because this looks embarrassing. Like a grown, so I get back onto the bench and third time's a charm. And I get there and I try to push and guess what happened? Nothing. And so I'm just deeply embarrassed. This is not a lot of weight for anyone in college. It doesn't matter. I'm just embarrassed. And then a teammate just walks by, doesn't even make eye contact with me. But as he's walking by, he's like, hey, the bar lock is still on, and just kept walking. See, in our gym, they had these bar locks that went on top of the bar so that it wasn't supposed to move at all until you unmove it. And I was thinking to myself, that is such a great picture for how so many of us actually live our lives. The issue in our lives is not, am I strong or smart or gifted or talented or all those things? Because I look across the room, as Pastor Sean said, you guys are beautiful. A lot of smart people in the room. Strength is here. There's all those things. But at the end of the day, the issue isn't about our giftings or our abilities or our desire to work harder and to become more passionate about something or to achieve your dream by just hard work and just, gritting through. The issue is simply this, is that you just don't know what you don't know. Most of the time, that's the issue. It's never you're not good enough, even though it might feel like you're not good enough. Anyone ever try to do something, anything, achieve any goal in life, and you just have a ridiculously hard time and you don't know how to get it? And then you might walk away from that example, and I'm leaving it blank for you to fill in your own spot, but you walk away thinking like, man, I'm horrible. I am not good at that. When in reality, it may not be an actual issue with your capability or your ability, but it has everything to do with the fact that you don't know what you don't know. And you might have been given it all you got, but there was a lock on the bar. And that if only you allowed one person to just walk by and say, hey, the lock bar's on. The bar lock is on. By the way, once it came off, I didn't lift 225. That took a little while, but I was able to get up those 245-pound plates. At least a few times, all right? At least a few times, all right? But until you allow someone to really come into your life, to coach you, to train you, to teach you, to help you, to observe and to point those things out, your potential and your purpose will always be locked. It will always be locked. No matter how hard you push or how hard you try, it will be locked. And so today's message is called The Unlocked Life. The Unlocked Life, because I want to talk about discipleship today. And if you are going through the Purple Book, you're starting week 6 here, so you're almost halfway done. Good job. And this week is on discipleship and leadership. And if you have not gotten that far yet, no rush. Just get there in your own time. You're almost halfway done. So I want to unpack our primary focus here on verse 19 of our passage. And I really want to use this passage to define what discipleship is, but then also what's an obstacle, what's one of the major challenges of that thing, and then how do we overcome that? Is that okay with you? It doesn't matter. I have the slides already created. So let's go back to Matthew chapter 4, verse 19. And this is again Jesus speaking. He says, "Follow me," he told them, "and I will make you fish for people." And so we're going to use this passage to use 3 F words to define what discipleship is. Anybody want to take a guess as what the first F word is? It's follow. See, discipleship is a call to follow Jesus. It's a call to follow Jesus. Now, Jesus' first disciples, the early church, the Big 12, there was a lot of people following Jesus. But in particular, there was a group that he would meet with, and he would pour into them, and he would coach them, and he would train them, and he would have fun with them and talk with them and relate with them. And they would eventually grow into some fantastic leaders. I'm talking worldwide, influential type of leadership whose lives and whose message would change the world forever. But I love this. Before there were those world-changing leaders, they were first disciples. They started there first. You'll never know how great of a leader you could be until you know how to be a great follower. And that might sound contradictory to every after-school special that you saw growing up. I'm not talking about peer pressure, but the best leaders in the world are those who know how to follow first. It's actually easy to try to become a leader. It's a lot harder to be a follower first. And who you follow is greatly important. But here, Jesus is the one that we're following. You know, in the days of this passage, the norm of the day was that if somebody wanted to become a rabbi or a teacher or what we would call going to the ministry, they would actually choose their teacher. Similar to how, like, if there's a certain program that you want to study because there's a job that you want, you might choose a particular college or university, right? Or you might choose a trade school because, man, you really want to be a mechanic, you want your own shop, or you want to do this or that, and you choose where you go. But this was highly unusual, believe it or not. for a teacher, for Jesus, who's a teacher, he's a rabbi now, for him to choose his disciples, to choose his students was not normal. That was a very, very unique thing. But he's here calling his disciples. I love this, that we don't choose Jesus, he first chooses us. And so anyone in the room that's like, man, I want to follow Jesus, just know this, that desire, that thought came from him. But for those in this room who are wondering, did he choose me? Oh yeah. See, he is the God who chooses everyone. He chooses us. And I love this. Discipleship is not a call to follow a denomination. It's not a call to follow a particular church. It's not a call to follow a person. It's not a call to follow me or Pastor Sean, right? Discipleship is not about following a person or following a church or following an organization. It's only a call to follow Jesus. That's it. Now, do we do a lot of different things in this church? Yeah, sure, right? People are involved. He makes discipleship, Jesus instituted discipleship in such a way that people have to be involved. No doubt. But we're not meant to teach people or train people how to follow us better, to teach people how to follow you better. It's always about pointing them back to Jesus. Are you following Jesus well? You see, the goal of discipleship is never to help you follow a person better or to become a better person. I want to say that again. That the call to follow Jesus, the goal of discipleship is never to help you follow a person better or to become a better person. And I want to almost leave that there for a moment because that sounds contradictory to the walk of faith that says, well, I do want to be a better person. Let me help you. Being a better person is most definitely a byproduct of discipleship. But the goal should never be that you become better. Because the moment that you make the goal of discipleship, you becoming a better person or a better anything, what have you done with discipleship? You've made it about self. You've now created a self-centered, selfish discipleship that is all about you becoming better. But following Jesus is the goal. And when you do that, you know what the byproduct is? You become a better person, a better son, a better daughter, husband, wife, friend. You become a better worker, a better employee. You become a better human being as a byproduct of the goal of discipleship, which is following Jesus. So what is the biggest challenge to following Jesus? Or one of the biggest challenges is this. It's our desire to follow self. It's easy to follow self, isn't it? Because when self says, I'm hungry, right? When self says, I'm hungry, what do? You go to the fridge, you go to the cabinets. Even if you went there 5 times and there's nothing there, you still go back to look because why? You will follow self even though it don't make no sense. Our desire to do what feels comfortable and feels good to us, never underestimate that desire. It is easy to do what feels good to us. And when it's about self, talking about discipleship, when discipleship is about self, we'll follow Jesus to the extent of our benefit. That the moment Jesus confronts something in our lives that we don't want him to touch, or we don't want him to move, or we don't like the way it sounds, or we don't like the way it feels, then now we're faced with a choice. Do I go his way, which I really don't want, is uncomfortable, or do I go my way, which feels right, it feels good, and I think this could be God if I just close my eyes long enough and just pretend that it is. But Jesus has a response. So how do we ensure that our discipleship stays pure? That it stays healthy, that our discipleship is not about positioning ourselves in a church organization or in a human resource organization or position where it's like, I am going to be discipled because I want to do that thing. And I know if I want to do that thing, then of course I have to be a disciple. How do we stay away from those things that we can turn discipleship into and keep it what Jesus meant? I'm so glad you all asked that question. In Luke chapter 9, verse 23, Jesus offers this. He says, if anyone wants to follow after me, let him deny himself or herself. Take up his cross daily and follow me. You see, following Jesus happens only after you deny yourself. That's the way it's designed. You cannot follow self and Jesus at the same time. You have to deny yourself. And if your following of Jesus always feels good, I would just encourage you to examine that, to make sure you're not just following self. Now, in my pursuit of Christ, I'm not saying you never get fulfilled, you never experience joy. I experience all the good stuff I ever have in my life is because of Jesus, okay? And all the bad stuff I've ever felt in my life is always because of someone else, but really it's me. But in our pursuit of Jesus and our discipleship of Jesus, my experience tells me this, is that I experience all the good because of Jesus, all the bad because of sin, but as a disciple, I actually experience both at the same time. It's a paradoxical kind of situation. It's never, oh man, the last 3 months have been really good and felt really good. I have no issues whatsoever. I always seem to have the best things happen at the same time as the worst things happening. But if our following of Jesus always feels good, may I submit that you might be missing what actually following Jesus actually feels like. Because he himself here is saying, he's like, guys, if you want to follow me, know this, you got to deny yourself. That there is a pain that comes with denying of self. Anybody in here ever want to eat a whole tub of ice cream in one sitting? Just me? Okay, you fill in the blank with whatever your thing is. It is hard to say no to yourself. But Jesus is saying, it doesn't feel good to follow me. You got to deny yourself. And then he embeds this thought in the same sentence that he says, and pick up your cross daily. I wished all the pain that I would feel in denying self, I could feel in one moment and be done for the rest of my life. Anybody in here would take that? I would. Okay, God, for 10 seconds, give me all the pain that I will experience for the rest of my life. Let me just get it over with so I can just enjoy life. But he's telling us this is hard. It's going to take discipline. It's not going to feel good. It's going to be like picking up your cross daily. But I picked up my cross last year. No. It's a daily grind. It is a daily struggle. It's a daily pain. This message is not all depressing, I promise. So when we deny self, we deny a convenient Jesus. And we're saying no to just Jesus when he's convenient for us, which really unlocks us to truly follow him. You ready for the second F word? So those of you whose mom is not here, you could text your mom and say, hey, I said 3 F words in church today. Here's the second one. Matthew chapter 4:19, we'll go back to the verse again. It says, follow me, he told them, and I will make you fish for people. So the second F word is fish. Discipleship is a call to fish for people. You see, following Jesus, it shapes who you are, and then it shapes what you actually do. And Jesus cares very much about what we do with our lives. He cares very much about it. And he cares about us so much, he knows the order in which that should be revealed to you, in which that happens in your life. So many times we start out with what I want to do, or maybe I got to become this thing. And then once I have that, then I can serve God, or then I can focus on my spirituality. Then I got to get my job. I got to get my career. I got to get that person. I got to get all those things first. But even Jesus himself is saying, follow me first. But what happens when you start following him? He makes you fish for people. We follow first. And as you follow him, guess what God does? He begins to make you into the thing that you need to be so you can do the thing that you are called to be. And even if you don't know what you're called to be yet, he does. He knows what you're going to be. He knew it as he's calling these fishermen. He said, hey, I'm going to make you to help you fish for men. And by the way, spoiler alert, we all have different callings. We all have different specific things in our lives. That's true. But you know one thing that we all have in common when it comes to our purpose, to our call, is that God has purposed all of us, all of you, to be sent to people, to go to people. See, when he called the disciples, the first disciples, he used the picture of, you're fishermen, but I'm gonna teach you how to fish for men. Some of you in here have never fished a day in your life. So this phrase may not resonate with you, but I wonder how he might have called Matthew, one of his disciples who was a tax collector. He was skilled at accounting, and he was probably really skilled at collecting money. He was probably so good at it, his brothers hated him for it. But I wonder if he called Matthew, I don't think he would say, hey, Matthew, I'm gonna help you fish for men. He's like, that doesn't add up. That was a joke. All right, nobody got that. All right. Tough crowd today. All right. But I can, in my imagining, as he's calling Matthew, the tax collector, maybe he would have said something like, follow me and I will teach you how to collect true treasure, true riches, which are people related, right? What about Simon the Zealot? He's basically an Israeli nationalist, right? Maybe when he called Simon the Zealot, he's like, Simon, come, follow me, and I'll give you a zeal for the nations. I'm gonna give you a zeal, not just for Israel, but for the world. What vernacular is God using for you at your job, in your place, and whatever you're doing, and whatever you wanna do? Whatever that is, allow God to speak to you and what he's actually calling and making you into. But know this, his plan is to send everyone to people. For some of you, that might mean a new job. It might mean moving to a new nation. But for most of you in this room, it just means reaching the people wherever you're at. Even if you're at a job you don't want. Even if you're at that job, you guys know what I'm talking about, like, man, I cannot wait till I leave this job. That's fine. But while you're there, you have a purpose for those people at your job. And when you get a new job, guess what? You have a new purpose. It's to reach those people at that new job. But one of the biggest challenges to fishing for people is similar to the first challenge. It's wanting to fish for something else. See, we'll put a lot of time and energy. If you don't know about fishing, that's fine. But most of us know this, is that a good fisherman knows his equipment or her equipment. They know what time to go fishing. They know which spot to go fishing. They know which the best fishing place to go. You got to use the right kind of pole versus salt water, fresh water, a river water, dead water, a pond lake. I don't know. Then there's the hooks. Then there's the bait. Then there's the buoy. It gets real expensive real fast. But we will go into all of our energies and all of our time. What is the thing that you spend a lot of time thinking about? Maybe it's your clothes, maybe it's your car, maybe it's your hair, maybe it's your, books that you like reading or movies. I mean, whatever your interests are, you become an expert at your own thing. I'm an expert at becoming an expert at stuff and never actually doing the stuff. I love learning stuff on YouTube that I'm never ever going to use. I enjoy that. But we'll put all of our time and energy into learning what we're interested in, because why? We're willing to fish for that thing. What are you fishing for that you're like, I know this, I'm gonna start my own business. I'm gonna start my own IT company. I'm gonna start this. And that's not bad stuff, but you do what? You research, you look into it. You spend a lot of time trying to become the best at that particular thing. So the issue is that it's not that we don't know how to quote unquote fish. The question is, what are you willing to fish for? And Jesus is calling us to fish for people. You know, a fisherman back in these days was actually a pretty good job. They got paid really good. Their salary was a lot better. They didn't have to work out in the desert or work a manual job. And in the heat of the day, they're on the water. For some of you, that's a dream. For others, it's a nightmare. But they had a good job with good income. And even though it was an honor for Jesus to call them, could you imagine the struggle of having to give up what they know really well, what they've worked hard for, what they were taught their whole lives on how to do? In fact, two of the brothers, they said they were with their father Zebedee. Zebedee probably taught them how to fish from a young age. They grew up with their identity as a fisherman. My family's identity are fishermen. My dad owns boats. I'm fishing with my dad. This is probably a good situation, good money. They're probably thinking about their kids becoming fishermen. And here comes Jesus, and he's saying, yeah, I want you to leave all of that. They turned down a good paying job for a job that offered zero salary and cost them their lives eventually. This is the kind of discipleship that Jesus was calling them into. They had to sacrifice the security of their livelihood, the security of the legacy of their family business. And God doesn't always cause you to be broken poor. That's not the message I'm preaching here. What I'm saying is this is God will call you to leave the thing that you think you're really, really good at so he can make you amazing at something else. And that is not a bad thing. So how do we push back against our natural desire to seek what we want? The answer is simply this: trust God. Easier said than done, but that's the answer, is to trust God. We stop trusting in our ability to create stability. We have to stop trusting in our ability to create stability in our lives, which, by the way, it never works. No matter how good your setup is, stability is always just one more work week away, one more job away, one more title away, one more relationship away. It's always going to be perpetually in front of you and out of reach, which is going to cause you to continue to run after that thing. You will never grab stability or peace apart from God. I promise you. But here's the response that Jesus gives. We'll go back to Luke chapter 9 and read the next verse in 24. It says, "For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life because of me will save it." See, what if these fishermen who are being called by Jesus, what would it look like for them to follow Jesus and never actually leave the boats or the nets behind? That would be hard to do because Jesus wasn't in the boat with them at that particular time. What if they loved their lives as fishermen so much? Well, here's what would happen. They would have lost their life. But the person who loses their life because of Jesus will actually save it. And it's this paradoxical, upside down way of saying, so you're trying to say if I try to save it, I don't save it. But if I just lose it for his sake, then I save it? Yep. Because it's a factor of trust. It's saying, Jesus, I will follow you even though I don't feel ready, I don't feel prepared, I don't feel equipped, I don't feel like I'm gonna do a good job at it. I don't know where this is coming from, where that's coming from. In fact, the second set of brothers, it says they were preparing to throw the nets out, right? Imagine, now preparing to throw the nets, I don't have time to get into it, but that's not an easy thing. These are big, heavy nets that they're throwing out into the sea to catch fish. This is their job. This is their livelihood. But they're preparing to throw the nets out. And imagine you're preparing something, and right before you get in there, throw that net into the water, Jesus is like, come here. And so they had to leave something that they didn't even get to finish yet. And I don't know about you, but I hate stopping stuff before I'm done with it. Oh, that bothers me a lot. Some of you all have been preparing your nets for what you've been fishing for. And Jesus might be saying, it's not that you wasted all your time, but I want you to leave the thing you've been working for and building towards because I have something better for you. If he expected that from them, why would he expect any less from us today? What are the nets in your lives that you have yet to let go of? Because you either love it too much or it brings you security. But what are the nets in your lives that are literally dragging you down as you're trying to follow Jesus that you got to let go of? You got to let go of certain things so that you can run unencumbered and you can follow Jesus the way that you really want to. So here's the third F word, and it's the last one, and we'll close here in a few minutes. Matthew chapter 4:19, we'll go back. It says, follow me, he told them, and I will make you fish for people. You all were really confident on the first F word. I gave you the second F word. Does anybody see the third F word? Not Brianna, who knows this already? So it's a trick question. There's no third F word there. But the F word that I'm going to use is fellowship. Discipleship is a call to fellowship with other believers. And where do we get fellowship from? It's from the word them. You see, a call to follow Jesus, a call to fish for Jesus is not a call of a life of solitude and isolation. He said this to them. He didn't give them an option to follow him alone. So by him calling the disciples to follow him and him alone, he was also bringing them together to follow together, to fish together, to fellowship with one another. Following Jesus alone wasn't and still isn't an option to this day. Discipleship is not just reading or studying your Bible or just taking a class. It's not just going to church and getting a purple Sunday shirt. You could do all these things. You could do all the stuff that the church has to offer you, any church. You can go through all the process, all the systems, all the classes, all the steps, fill out all the cards, do all the things that a Christian should do. But if those things don't pull you into a deeper relationship with God and with other people, then I believe you missed the point of those things. That the reason why we do anything in the church is fundamentally to what? To help us love God and love people. It's so that we can come together and do these things together. In short, discipleship is relationship. It's relationship with God and it's relationship with people. And without any of those, without God and without others, our lives will always be locked. We won't be able to, we'll be pushing until we're 100 years old, saying, God, I gave it my best. He'll say, well, I sent a whole bunch of people to tell you that the bar lock was on. If you would have just took that off, the things you would have been able to do. You know, one of the biggest challenges to fellowshipping is isolation. 2020 didn't help with that. It exasperated. It actually revealed to people that they don't like being alone. It took a whole year, some change of being alone for some people to realize being alone is not a great idea. But when you're living life in that solo dolo kind of way, that is really when you're most vulnerable. It's when you're at your weakest. Anybody like watching National Geographic? Right? I don't know what it is. Something about, I'll watch it every single time. We don't have cable anymore, so it's been years, but I'll never forget. Anytime I see a lion just kind of in the weeds, I'm like, I don't care what we're doing. I'm locked in. And you're kind of like, I hope they get it this time. I don't know why. I just want to see him get caught. Or sometimes you root for the animal that is chasing. Like, come on, get out. Go, go, go. But if you go back and you just kind of, I'm not an expert at this, but I know this, is that a lion or any kind of animal that's attacking a prey, they would never actually run straight into the herd. It doesn't make sense because the herd is big and strong and they have ways to fend off attackers. But what a lion would do or any kind of predator would do is they stay in the weeds hidden and they wait to find any stragglers, any part of the herd that falls to the wayside, maybe because they're young, maybe because they're weak, maybe because they're sick. And once they get them alone, they pounce. Anybody know where they go first? They go straight for the jugular. You want to know, the fact that animals know this is phenomenal to me. But you know one of the reasons why they attack the throat first? So it can't cry out for help. This is what isolation does to us. This is what isolation looks like, is that you're alone, you get attacked, and what's worse is you don't even feel like you have anyone to call for help. You feel like you can't call for help. You shouldn't call for help. Or maybe you start answering for them. They're not going to answer their phone. Or here's a big lie that we all believe. I do myself. I can't call them. They're probably really busy right now. And that is the attack. It's on our voice and it's on our ability to just say, help. I need you. Can you come here? Can we spend time together? Because I am alone. This is what evil does to us. But when you're alone, you fight alone. And when you fight alone, you will lose alone. But Jesus knew this. He knew that as human beings, we had no chance of survival apart from each other, apart from fellowship. So these three words, follow, fish, and fellowship, they work together to produce a healthy, fulfilled disciple. Is it easy? No, I'm not gonna lie, especially that third one. I'm not gonna lie. It seems real easy to follow Jesus and do what he tells me to do without anybody else, right? Because people just kind of slow you down, right? But the truth of the matter is, what things in your life, what great things in your life have ever come easy? But God knows best. And so he's calling us that as we follow him and fish for people and we do it with others, that actually increases the fruitfulness of how we follow him. And then as you grow in how you follow him, guess what else increases? How you fish for others. And as you fish for others and you pour out what God is giving you, you're gonna realize, man, I need to be around people more. I need stronger relationships in my life. And this whole triangle, these F words, this follow, fish, and fellowship begins to kind of work and play off of one another. And that perpetuates you towards being a healthy disciple. And notice how that has nothing to do with what church you go to, what badge you got, what translation Bible you have, or how many people call you whatever titles you want them to call you. Because it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about Jesus, and it's about we following he. This is discipleship. This is the key to the unlocked life. The question is will you open yourself up and allow yourself to become a disciple of Jesus?